As a quick reminder, we started off with this strategy map. The team worked on understanding what are the goals that need to be achieved in order to be successful at each of these strategic objectives. And we added those onto the strategy map, so it now looks a bit like this. So for example, to maintain cost control, the goals were, deliver on service commitments and business strategies. On things like enable business strategies, it was things like continuously improve, maintain a higher level of business satisfaction, and be an advisor to business. So this is the work that the teams came up with. PM Squared took the opportunity of looking at this work and overlaying our experience with best practices. Now, to put it into context, remember that we eventually adjusted the strategy map, so the overall map now looked like this. Again, we consolidated the two cost objectives, we consolidated the two business strategies and objectives, and then finally added in one around reputational risk. So based on the work that your team did and our experience with best practices, we came up with the following proposal of goals beneath each strategic objective. So for example, under cost control, we're recommending two best practice formulas that we've used at other financial institutions, and we'll share those with you in the next webinar. But one is strategic ROI, which is what is the improvement we've made on our own processes and the return on that investment. And then secondly, what is the value we've delivered to our customers and at what cost? For looking at our business strategy, our business customers' strategies and objectives, we looked at value delivered, and again, value is a key formula. It has to do with anything we can do to increase quality or performance, divided by anything we can do to reduce cost or time. So what is the value we delivered, and what's their overall satisfaction level? On the risk side, we're looking at whatever the accepted internal equation is for the valuation of risk exposure, and we'll be going to Orlando's group to seek that information. On efficiency run day-to-day operations, we're looking at systems performance. And again, we've got a formula for the performance that we've decided to use. Ensuring security and reliability, we'll be using the reputational risk from the risk register. Down on continuously optimize our cost through innovation, we're going to take a look at two things. One is our ability to continually reduce the cost to support each of our customer RBC employees. So we take a look at the number of employees we have in retail and wealth management and divide that by the cost to give us our cost per employee, or the inverse of that rather. And also, what is the cost to support the end customer? So how many customers are we supporting across the RBC network, and what's that cost? And those are the two key cost levers we need to manage. Under operational excellence, we're looking at how can we increase productivity. Again, productivity here being a formula, and that same value equation. What can we do to drive value? And then lastly, about our resource allocation. Do we have the right resources at the right place and tasked with the right initiatives? On risk safety and soundness, we will be going to Orlando to understand what are the metrics they're recommending we use on the risk side. And then under business alignment, what are the internal activities we need to do? We'll be looking at goal alignment and early engagement. And then finally, under employees' capabilities and behaviors and values, we'll be determining measures for each of our core values: service, teamwork, responsibility, diversity, and integrity. And above and beyond that, look at things to build the competency pool. So that's how it is we've combined the work that the team has done around goals with best practices and reached an agreement about these objectives. In the next webinar, we'll give you an overview of some of the formulas I've been outlining here. Based on the work that the team has done around critical success factors, goals, zero-based indicators, and existing indicators within RBC, we then wanted to introduce some additional ideas. The metaphor we used is, we've now built out sort of a sketch of the house that you'd like to build. Let's hand it over to the architects and see what they come back with. And these are some of the things that, based on our experience at PM Squared, we're strongly recommending that RBC consider. And in fact, as a result of this overview, all of the following indexes have been incorporated into your new scorecard. The first is an equation about value. This is going to be used both for operational excellence objective and for helping your external customers measure what you've delivered. And of course, the dilemma is, since we're not a profit center, we can't measure our net contribution through profitability. But we do know the value that we create has to do with anything we can do to increase the quality of what we deliver, increase the performance of what we deliver, or reduce the cost to run the system or the time involved in delivering the system. So value is about increasing quality, performance, or reducing cost and time. Now, it's our customer, retail wealth management in this example's responsibility to convert that into profitability for the bank, but that's what we do to enable them. Now, it's important to note as we go through the detail, in most cases we're going to be reporting these factors as scores. In other words, out of 10, how well are we doing on quality and performance and cost and time? Conceptually, that will help you out as we go through the detail. We came up with also what we've used historically as these formula, but we're going to work on them to modify them around what RBC has. So, for example, for quality, it's a function around fit to purpose. In other words, are we able to deliver a system that meets the end customer initial requirements? Maintainability, how well can we maintain that system? Supportability, how well can we support it? And of course, safety, security, and so forth. So that's going to become an equation that we'll use RBC data to actually determine those numbers. For things like fit to purpose, that data is going to eventually come from EPPM. Supportability from the help desk and so forth. So the data is available, we just need to source the specific elements. The agreed to formula for performance is something along the lines of response time and reliability inside those key peak hours and so forth. Again, next week we'll work on modifying those formulas around RBC data. This value equation is important. This value equation is used on 3 different strategic objectives in different ways to help determine the value that T&O brings to the table. This becomes a key strategic lever that the overall T&O SLT has to make sure that we're pushing in the right direction. We also took a look at productivity. This is an internal measure of productivity. We're going to take a look at the strategy points earned divided by the FTE equivalents to get there. Now, strategy points earned is a conversation about the strategic value that different objectives have. So, for example, the employee capability objective on your strategy map has a weighting of 25%. A unit of measure of effort to improve that 25%er gives you better productivity than the same unit of measure applied to, say, a 5% objective. In other words, those strategy points have to do with how important they are to the organization. As the SLT changes priorities, our productivity shifts based on those new priorities. In fact, the third module, the productivity module, we'll be drilling into this in more detail. So for now, we'll have a rough cut piece of data, but 3 weeks from now, we'll have a more sophisticated formula. Now, that's an internal measure. We can't use that externally. So internally, on the return on investment, on the cost, F1 objective, we can take a look at those strategy points and divide that by the activity-based costing allocation of cost to achieve those strategy points. But again, that's internal. External, your customers don't care about your internal strategy points. They care about the value you've delivered to them. So we take that value equation we looked at, increase quality or performance, reduce cost or time, and divide that by the cost to achieve that performance improvement, the ABC allocation. We also need an ability to measure your alignment. If you remember under the internal 4 objective business alignment, what we're going to do is take a look at what is the original agreement. What did we originally agree to our customer that we were going to deliver to them in terms of functionality and time? And we're going to divide that by what we actually delivered. And again, this is already tracked inside of our project management tool set and will be enhanced through EPPM as it goes forward. So what is the degradation? And this is like golf, where a lower value is better. Finally, we need a way to begin measuring complexity. What is the complexity of what we're delivering and sustaining? And we know that complexity in the IT world is a function between the number of entities and the connections between entities. Now, an entity can be anything. It can be a system, a hardware platform, a different application, and so forth. And connections are the number of customers or end customers that are hitting that, or the number of systems which are talking to each other. Now, remember, we're scoring these things. What is our target number of entities? So through simplification, you may be trying to reduce the number of systems you're supporting and begin to standardize and that kind of thing. And the connections, you may in fact be trying to increase the number of connections with the same system, support more end customers. So each of these have targets, and the function is how are we doing against those targets and how they relate to each other. So complexity has to do with an index of how sophisticated the IT environment is or how fragile it is because of the complexity. So these formulas are ones that we've added into the mix based on best practice experience and seem to have tremendous traction inside your scorecard team. Over the next week, we'll be building these out, and hopefully by the week after, we'll begin having straw models put together of what this would look like.